The text came through while I was washing dishes, my 76-year-old hands submerged in warm, soapy water. I'd been humming an old tune, something Martha used to sing while she cooked, when the phone buzzed on the counter. I dried my hands on the towel and picked it up, expecting maybe a reminder about my doctor's appointment or one of those spam messages about my car's extended warranty. Instead, I saw my daughter Jennifer's name, and my heart did that little lift it always does when I hear from my children. Then I read the words. "Don't call me anymore. I'm tired of you and your requests." I stood there for a long moment, the dish towel still in my hands, water dripping onto the kitchen floor. I read it again, then a third time. Each reading felt like a small stone dropping into my chest, settling somewhere near my heart. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Years of instinct told me to respond immediately, to explain, to apologize, to fix whatever had broken. I typed, "Jennifer, I'm sorry if," and then stopped. I deleted it. I set the phone down, returned to the sink, and finished washing the dishes. I said nothing. That night, lying in bed in the house that felt too big for one person, I thought about my requests. What had I asked of Jennifer recently? There was the ride to my cardiologist appointment last month when my car was in the shop. I'd asked her to pick up a prescription 2 weeks ago when the pharmacy was on her way home from work. Last week, I'd called to ask if she could help me figure out my new phone. The old one had finally died, and this smartphone felt like trying to pilot a spaceship. Were these requests too much? Was I too much? I didn't sleep well, but when morning came, I still said nothing. Days passed, then a week. My phone stayed silent, no calls to Jennifer, no texts. Other people called, my son Marcus from Seattle, my neighbor Ed asking if I wanted to grab coffee, the dental office confirming my cleaning appointment. But I didn't call Jennifer. I'd spent 50 years as a father learning when to speak and when to listen. I'd raised 3 children, buried a wife, and lived through enough to know that sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Sometimes people need to hear the echo of their own voice, the weight of their own words, without our explanations cluttering the space around them. So I said nothing. 2 weeks after the text, Marcus called. "Dad, what's going on with you and Jen?" I was in the garage, organizing my toolbox, something I did when I needed to keep my hands busy and my mind occupied. "What do you mean?" "She called me last night, all upset, says you're ignoring her, that you haven't called in weeks." I set down the wrench I'd been holding. "Did she say anything else?" "She seems, I don't know, Dad, confused, worried. She said the last text she sent you, you didn't even respond." "That's true. And nothing, son. She told me not to call her anymore, that she was tired of me and my requests, so I respected her wishes." There was a long pause on the other end. "Dad, you know Jen, she says things when she's stressed she didn't mean." "How do you know what she meant?" I interrupted gently. "Were you there when she wrote it? Did you feel what she felt when she hit send?" "Well, no, but..." "Marcus, I love your sister, you know that. But I also respect her enough to take her words seriously. If she's tired of me calling, then I won't call. If she's tired of my requests, then I won't make any. It's that simple." "Dad, that's not, you can't just," he sighed, the sound crackling through the phone. "You're being stubborn." Maybe, or maybe I'm finally listening. After I hung up with Marcus, I sat in my old recliner, the one Martha always said looked like it belonged in a dumpster, but that I'd never been able to throw away, and let myself think about the whole thing properly. Jennifer was my middle child, sandwiched between Marcus and her younger sister Sarah. She'd always been the responsible one, the organizer, the problem solver. When Martha got sick, Jennifer had been the one coordinating doctor appointments, managing medications, making sure I ate and slept. After Martha died, Jennifer had been there constantly those first few months, bringing groceries, helping with paperwork, just sitting with me when the house felt too quiet. But somewhere along the way, I'd started leaning on her. Not intentionally, not consciously, but it had happened. A request here, a favor there. Could she help with this? Could she explain that? Could she just stop by for a minute? I told myself I was just asking for small things, reasonable things. I hadn't stopped to consider that small things add up, that reasonable requests become unreasonable when there are too many of them. I'd become a burden. The realization sat heavy in my stomach. 3 weeks after the text, I saw Jennifer at the grocery store. I was in the produce section, trying to remember if I needed onions or if I already had some at home, when I spotted her near the bakery. She had her back to me, examining a loaf of bread. For a moment, I considered just slipping away, avoiding the awkwardness altogether. But I'd never been one to run from discomfort. I walked over, pushing my cart slowly. "The sourdough's better than the wheat," I said when I was close enough, "less crumbly." She turned, and I saw surprise flash across her face, followed by something else, guilt maybe, or uncertainty. "Dad, hi." "Jennifer." We stood there in the bread aisle, other shoppers flowing around us like water around stones in a stream. "I've been meaning to call," she said finally, not meeting my eyes. "You told me not to." "I didn't mean," she stopped, looking frustrated. "You know I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it then?" She set down the bread she'd been holding. "I was having a bad day, a bad week actually. Work was insane, the kids were sick, Tom was traveling for business, and you called about something with your phone and I snapped. I shouldn't have sent that text. It was cruel. It was honest. Dad." Jennifer listened to me. I kept my voice gentle, the way I used to when she was small and had scraped her knee or lost a toy. "You weren't wrong. I have been asking too much of you. I've been treating you like my personal assistant, my tech support, my transportation service. I didn't see it clearly until you pointed it out, but you were right to say something." Her eyes were getting shiny. "You're not a burden, Dad." I didn't say I was, but my requests were becoming one, and that's on me to fix. "I shouldn't have." "Yes, you should have. Maybe not in those exact words, maybe not in a text, but you absolutely should have told me when I was asking too much. That's what adults do. They set boundaries. I'm just sorry it took me this long to respect yours." A tear rolled down her cheek, and she wiped it away quickly. "Why didn't you respond? Why didn't you call?" "I've been worried sick." "Because you asked me not to. And because I think maybe we both needed some space to figure out what this relationship looks like now." "What do you mean?" I leaned against my shopping cart, suddenly feeling every one of my 76 years. "Sweetheart, when your mother was alive, I had a partner, someone to help me navigate the world, to split responsibilities with, to lean on when things got hard. When she died, I lost that. And without really thinking about it, I started treating you like a replacement, not as my wife, obviously, but as my support system, my go-to person for everything. I don't mind helping you, Dad." "I know you don't. That's part of the problem. You're so good at helping, so competent and caring, that you'll keep doing it until you break. And I love you too much to let that happen." She was crying openly now, and I reached out to squeeze her hand. "I've spent the last 3 weeks learning to handle things on my own," I continued. "I figured out the phone by watching YouTube videos. I set up a service that delivers groceries. I found a local driving service for medical appointments. I joined a senior center that has all sorts of classes and activities. I've been adapting." "You shouldn't have to do all that alone." "Why not? I'm old, Jennifer, but I'm not helpless. I was just acting helpless because it was easier than learning new ways of doing things. And you were enabling me, honestly, by always being there to solve my problems." She pulled her hand back, looking hurt. "So now I'm the bad guy for helping my father." "No, you're the good daughter who was doing too much, and I'm the father who was asking too much. We are both responsible here." A woman reached between us to grab a baguette, and we moved our carts to the side, out of the main flow of traffic. "I don't want us to not talk," Jennifer said quietly. "I miss you." "I miss you too, but I think we need to rebuild this relationship on healthier terms. I need to be more independent, and you need to feel free to say no without guilt. Can we do that?" "I don't know how." "We start small. We start with honesty." I looked at her directly. From now on, if I ask you for something and it's inconvenient or you just don't want to do it, I need you to tell me. No excuses, no guilt, just no, Dad, that doesn't work for me. Can you do that? She nodded slowly. And I promise to stop treating you like my personal assistant. I'll handle my own affairs unless it's truly an emergency, and I'll start calling just to talk, not just when I need something. Deal. Deal, she wiped her eyes again. I really am sorry about that text. I know, and I'm sorry I put you in a position where you felt you had to send it. We stood there for another moment, and then she stepped forward and hugged me, right there in the grocery store bread aisle. I held her tight, this daughter of mine who'd been trying so hard to take care of me that she'd forgotten to take care of herself. Dad, she said, her voice muffled against my shoulder. Yes, sweetheart. The senior center you mentioned, do they have activities for grandparents and grandkids? I pulled back to look at her. I think so. Why? Because the kids have been asking about you, and I think maybe we could all use some time together that isn't about me running errands for you or you needing help with something. Just family time. I felt my throat tighten. I'd like that very much. We finished our shopping separately, but made plans to have dinner that weekend, her family at my house, with me cooking. Not asking her to bring anything, not requesting her help with preparation, just inviting her to come and be together. That night I got a text from her, thank you for respecting my boundaries, and thank you for loving me enough to let me set them. I love you, Dad. I typed back, I love you too, sweetheart, always. And then, because I was learning, by the way, I don't need a response to this, just wanted you to know. She sent back a heart emoji. The months that followed weren't perfect. I still occasionally slipped into old habits, and Jennifer still sometimes struggled to say no. But we were both trying, both learning, both growing into a new version of our relationship. I learned to use video calling so I could see my grandkids without always needing Jennifer to bring them over. I found a community of other widowers at the senior center who understood the strange loneliness of losing a spouse. I discovered I actually enjoyed cooking for myself, experimenting with recipes Martha never would have approved of. And Jennifer learned to call just to chat, to share funny stories from work or kid shenanigans, without always feeling like she needed to check on me or fix something in my life. The text that had hurt so much, don't call me anymore, I'm tired of you and your requests, ended up being a gift. A painful, necessary gift that forced both of us to examine our relationship and choose something better. Sometimes silence is the kindest response. Sometimes saying nothing is actually saying everything that needs to be said. Sometimes the most loving thing a father can do is respect his daughter's words, even when they hurt, and trust that the relationship is strong enough to survive honesty. 6 months after that text, Jennifer and I were at the park with her kids when she said, "You know, Dad, I was so angry when you didn't respond to my message. I thought you were being petty or punishing me. And now." She watched her children playing on the swings, then looked at me with a small smile. "Now I understand you were respecting me. Maybe for the first time in a long time, you were treating me like an adult who meant what she said, not a child who needed to be managed or appeased. You've always been worth respecting, Jennifer. I just forgot how to show it." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat there in comfortable silence, the good kind, the kind that comes from understanding rather than distance. "Love you, Dad," she said. "Love you too, sweetheart." And this time, I didn't need anything else.